Welcome to the Let's Learn to Fly podcast. I am Dr. Heather Monty, your host, flight instructor, and passionate educator. In each episode, we will explore different aspects of the world of aviation to introduce you to new possibilities and inspire you to let your dreams take flight. Hello, and welcome back to the Let's Learn to Fly podcast. I am Heather Monty, your host for this podcast. So in today's episode, what I wanted to do is talk about how to read VFR sectional charts like a pro. Specifically, I want to talk about for those of you who are studying for your remote pilot exam, or maybe you've taken the exam and you're still not 100% confident with reading VFR sectional charts. So I wanted to talk about this today. So, the title of this podcast episode is Learn How to Read VFR Sectional Charts Like a Pro. Obviously, you're not going to learn how to read them like a pro by listening to a podcast. But what I did want to do is talk about a couple of different things that you can do to learn how to read those charts. They are a visual tool that you use that's color-coded. So it's going to be very difficult to go over all of that in a podcast episode, but let's just talk about a few of the things. So, I know charts can be very confusing when you're first learning how to read them, but they are certainly your key to flying safely. So let's just talk a little bit more about what are some of those things that it is that you need to know. So once you learn how to use charts and you're able to read them, you'll feel much more confident. You'll be able to fly with more confidence no matter where you go. You'll know exactly what type of airspace is safe for your drone and exactly where you are at all times. So let's get to this little crash course on how to read VFR sectional charts. So first of all, what is a VFR sectional chart? You may be saying to me, Heather, I don't even know what you're talking about. I have no idea what this is. Okay. And that's why you're here. You're here to learn. So a VFR sectional chart, they are aeronautical charts that depict visual flight rules, or VFR. That's where VFR stands for, navigation information for pilots in the United States. So if you are preparing for your remote pilot exam, say you are, you're looking to start a side hustle, you're a photographer and you want to add drone photography to your business. Maybe you work in law enforcement. As you get your remote pilot certificate, you are considered a pilot. So you need to learn how to read VFR sectional charts. So this is going to be what we might equate to is a map if you are driving through the United States highway system. The VFR sectional charts show the national airspace system. Here in the United States, it's a little bit different from reading, an atlas or a map or a GPS or something like this, because airspace in the national airspace system is three-dimensional, and we've got to diagram it on a one-dimensional document. So, or a flat document, right? So those VFR sectional charts are essentially the maps of the national airspace system, very similar to what you would see is the map for the highway system here in the United States. So we use them. How are they used? So pilots are going to use these VFR sectional charts to plan flights at altitudes less than 18,000 feet. So you as a remote pilot will be operating between 0 and 400 feet AGL, or above ground level. And if you are a manned aircraft pilot, you will almost always be operating at 500 feet AGL or higher, with the exception of a couple different scenarios such as takeoff, landing, and a couple different other things that you might be flying a little bit lower than 500 feet. So those VFR sectional charts are used to plan your altitudes at less than 18,000 feet. So what kinds of information can be found in them? You're going to find all sorts of useful information on VFR sectional charts. You're going to find things, airspace boundaries. You're going to be looking at Class Bravo airspace, which you're going to see around major metropolitan areas such as Seattle, Chicago, Miami, New York, LA. Then you're going to see boundaries for Class Charlie airspace, which are going to be your more moderate-sized metropolitan areas. So you've got, things like Milwaukee. That's going to be your Class Charlie airspace. Then you've got Class Delta airports, which are going to be airports that might be in a smaller town. They're going to be airports that maybe they have scheduled air carrier services or airline services in them, maybe not. But there will be a control tower that's Class Delta airspace or airport. And then you've also got Class Echo and Class Gulf. And so Class Echo and Class Gulf are not going to have a control tower. So you'll be able to identify all those different types of airports and airspace boundaries on the VFR sectional charts. You can also identify terrain features. You'll know what is the highest structure in a particular area. On the VFR sectional chart, you'll be able to identify some radio frequencies, some navigational aids, and some general sort of landmarks and features that are easily identifiable from the air. Now, you have to remember, if you are a remote pilot, manned aircraft pilots are using these VFR sectional charts in the air. They're using them while they're flying. So they're going to be things that are going to be easily identifiable from the air. So you can find all that kind of information. There's also going to be a legend on the VFR sectional chart. If you have the printed one, it's really easy to find the legend. It's just off to the left on the margin. But if you're using something like SkyVector, you have to know to open up the individual VFR sectional chart, and you just do that by double clicking on it, and you can go look at the margin and you can see all of the different symbols, what they mean. If you're not certain what something is, you're going to go look at that legend. So that term is read the darn chart or something like that, right? So you're going to use that legend to identify all the things that you need on those charts. Okay. If you are preparing for the remote pilot exam or the private pilot exam, you will be given a testing supplement that you can use on the exam to identify certain types of things on the charts. So it'll tell you, go look at figure 3 dot whatever, and it will be a picture of a VFR sectional chart, and it will ask you to identify something. Now, in that chart supplement, in that testing supplement, there will be a legend in that testing supplement. You can go look at the legend. If you're not certain what something means, you go look at the legend to find the answer. So what they're looking for here is that you don't necessarily have to memorize everything, but you do know where to go to find the answer. I have a really, really, really great video on YouTube on how to use the testing supplement, and I will link to that in the show notes. You can watch that, go through it. I show you exactly how to get a copy of the testing supplement, the exact one that you'll use on test day, how to look through it, and how to sort of prepare yourself for testing day on there. So when you're actually looking at your VFR sectional charts, it's how do you read them? What do you do? All right. So what I always suggest is when you're first starting out and maybe you're trying to teach yourself some of this, you don't have a flight instructor sitting down there next to you showing you how to read these charts, go to skyvector.com and just find your city. Find the city where you live and see what is the closest airport to you. There may be airports around you that you're not even aware of. There might be much smaller airports, a lot less traffic, and you might not even be aware that they're there. All right. So what I would say is just start by finding where it is that you live. Go to skyvector.com and just find where you live. You can look for different landmarks. There's not going to be roads in there. It's not going to be like Google Maps where they list, Highway 47. They're not going to list that. The major highways, you may see an actual highway, but it's not going to be labeled. All right. And so what you'll want to do then is start looking around at the airspace around you and the area that you've identified. And the reason I'm telling you to pick an area that you live by or an area that you're very familiar with is because you'll be able to easily translate some of the things that you know and see to the chart. So maybe there's a radio tower, maybe there's power lines, maybe there's a mountain, something like that, a water tower. Things that you know physically exist, you know exactly where they are, you can find those on the charts. Sometimes they will be listed on the charts. So start getting familiar with all of the different airspace around your particular spot where you live. Okay, so go to skyvector.com, find your city, just start studying it. And anything that you find on there that you're not sure what it is, go look at the legend. Go look at the legend on the VFR chart and figure out what it is. Okay, and make sure that you just take some time to go actually read that legend. Get comfortable with, with some of the symbols. There's going to be some things in there that you're going to see a lot and you're going to just know, you're going to start memorizing these symbols, but then you're going to get a symbol. You're like, I have no idea what this means. And that's where you go look at the chart legend. Okay. And sometimes you actually find something that there might be a mistake, and there is a whole process to report mistakes or things that you think might be a mistake to the FAA. It's actually happened to me before where I'm racking my brain trying to figure out something on a chart, and here it was incorrect. So anyways, go take a look at that video that I created. It's on YouTube. I have a link to it in the show notes for you. Watch it. Again, I show you exactly how to get the testing supplement, how to get a copy of it. You can either get a printed copy of it or use the PDF copy online. Either one works. Make sure though, if you get a printed copy, make sure you get one in color. This is a colorized document, and black and white's not going to work for you. So last but not least, you could go on SkyVector and print up your area and use a highlighter or pencil to start marking out maybe some routes that you might want to actually fly, or some areas that you might actually want to fly. You can refer back to it later. Manned aircraft pilots will actually take and write on their charts to plan out cross countries from one airport to another. If they're not using software, there's software now that allows pilots to plan those cross countries. But way back in the day when I was first learning, we actually took a pencil or a highlighter and marked our route on the chart. And you can always come back to it so you know your chart, your routes. So you as a drone pilot, what you can do is print it up in color, your particular area of the country, and just start marking up some things, marking up some areas that maybe you have flown before, or maybe some areas that you want to fly. Go to them and take a look at them and physically go there and compare it to the charts. And that'll just really help you familiarize yourself with the chart, and you'll be reading charts like a pro in no time. So if you're looking for a deeper dive in learning how to read charts, I recommend checking out my online course, Understanding Airspace and VFR Sectional Charts for Drone Pilots. In this course, I walk you through all of the details of the National Airspace System, how to identify all the classes of airspace on a VFR sectional chart. I provide a ton of tips, tricks for flying safely in controlled airspace, uncontrolled airspace, and then I give you a step-by-step process for requesting airspace authorizations. I walk you right through how to get that airspace authorization if you need it. So this is part of my Part 107 course, but if you're looking just for information, a deeper dive on airspace and VFR sectional charts, I've pulled that out of my Part 107 course and created it as a separate course that you can purchase separately. So you can find the course, go to learn.letsflyaz.com. I will have a link in the show notes for you as well. But again, that's just if you're just really looking for additional help on how to read those VFR sectional charts. The other thing I'd like to do is invite you to join my student pilot Facebook group. It's a growing group. We've got good people in there. If you've got questions, feel free to post in there. Either I will answer or somebody else will chime in and give you a good answer to your questions. So I'd like to invite you to join there as well. You can find that link in the show notes as well. So thank you, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.